Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name's Alexa. It's the end of April, it's April 30th to be precise, so I thought I would film my April wrap-up. I previously filmed my quarterly wrap-up, which was all the books that I read in January, February, and March, but I did mention two of the books that I read in April, but I'm just gonna mention them again because I always have more to say about the books I'm reading, so let's just get into it. So the first book I read in April was Fangirl. This is my second time reading Fangirl. I previously read it when I was younger in middle school, but I haven't read it since. So I read it in the beginning of April. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really loved it. It's just so comforting to me and I just had such a good time. Fangirl is basically about this girl, Kath, who is going to college. It's her first semester and she's just very shy and socially awkward and just doesn't want to do the whole college thing, doesn't want to do the whole roommate thing. And so she's kind of dealing with that on top of dealing with this fan fiction that she's been writing for years. She's been writing this fan fiction based on this imaginary story. It actually isn't imaginary, now it exists, called Carry On. I really enjoyed rereading Fangirl. I didn't remember a lot of it. I remembered the basic premise, but I really didn't remember so many of the characters, so it was refreshing. It was a really fun read. Next, I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Then She Was Gone is about this woman who lost her daughter years ago, and she's trying to just put the pieces of her life back together and fall in love again and just create a family again. And there's just a lot of twists and turns, and it's kind of a predictable book. For me, I knew everything that was gonna happen right before it happened, but I still really was entertained and I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time reading Then She Was Gone. It was a good one. Next, I read Wilder Girls. I gave Wilder Girls 3.5 stars. I was on the brink of 3.5, 4. I rounded it up to 4 on Goodreads. Wilder Girls is an interesting story. It's basically, it's described as a kind of a Lord of the Flies retelling if it was a bunch of girls instead, which it definitely has that vibe. It's about this school on this island where basically there's a parasite that is in all living things. It's in all the animals in the woods, it's in all these girls, and some of them can survive it and some of them can't, and it's just kind of up in the air, and they all get these weird symptoms from it, and they're all just trying to survive. And it's a really interesting story. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. Another part of this is kind of cool is the fact that there's a sapphic romance. It's not really prevalent, it's just a little sprinkle of it, but it's still nice to have, nice to see, and I really liked it. I really liked how it ended. I thought the stakes were just so high at the end that the way it ended was kind of exactly how I wanted it to end. I feel that's a little controversial because it definitely was a bit of an abrupt ending. There was definitely more we could have known, but I feel it ended where I wanted it to, and it was pretty solid, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I read Fangirl, the manga, part 1. There's going to be 4 parts, I believe. Yes, 4 parts. And this is so cute. I was so excited to read this because I just think this is such a cool idea. I think everything that they've done in the Fangirl franchise has just been so smart. The fact that they made books for the fan fiction that Kath writes, and now they have a manga, and the art style is just so beautiful. It's so cool to put a face to certain characters, and even they show scenes of the fan fiction that she's writing, and it shows the characters in the fan fiction too, so it's just like so cute. It's like the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. And I gave it 5 stars because I loved it. Like at points I was just staring at pages for just like minutes straight because the art style is just so cool. I actually tried to find this artist on Instagram, but I couldn't find them. But their name is Gabby Nam, and they're a South Korean artist, and they're a great artist. I'm like obsessed. I really can't wait for the next 3 books to come out. I'm really excited. The next few books I read are the books that were a part of my Sapphic reading vlog. So the first book I read for that was They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I loved this book. I've talked about how much I loved this book many times on this channel. I'm just obsessed. Like I just love this book. Basically, in They Never Learn, it follows a professor who is a serial killer, and she's killing all the rapists on campus, and she's getting away with it, and she's so badass, and it's so fun. I gave it 5 stars. I got so many 5-star books this month. Like, I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. But yeah, They Never Learn was amazing. I loved it. It was so compelling. I listened to it on an audiobook, which it's actually the first book I fully have ever listened to on audio. My review on Goodreads for They Never Learn is literally just, oh my god. They Never Learn is so thrilling. It's enthralling. It also has like sapphic romance, and it also follows this girl Carly in college and her journey like being in college for her first year and kind of like developing feelings for her roommate and stuff. So it is just fantastic. I highly recommend They Never Learn. The next book I read this month was Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. I really liked Honey Girl. I loved like the coming of age aspect of it, and I loved that there was a sapphic romance, like obviously that made it all the better. But there was like parts that kind of lacked for me. There was just like moments where the pacing kind of bothered me and little nitpicky things like that. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed it. It's about this girl who accidentally marries this girl in Vegas. Oh, I have to sneeze. Oh my god. Sneezing is dangerous. Like that just took over my body. Anyway, I really liked Honey Girl. It was a good time. It's basically about this girl who accidentally marries this girl in Vegas and then kind of like has to come back to her real life and kind of sort everything out, and she's just graduated school and she's trying to get a job, but she's just like dealing with a lot of turmoil. It's just like a really interesting read. It touches upon a lot of important topics, and I would definitely suggest picking this up. The next thing I read was Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. I loved this book. I really liked this book. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just so good. It was just so good. Something to Talk About follows our 2 main characters, Joe and Emma. Joe is Emma's boss, and Emma's Joe's assistant. Joe's a screenwriter, and they work in Hollywood. And basically, they go to an award show together, and they get a photo taken together on the red carpet where Joe is making Emma laugh. And from there, everyone thinks they're dating, everyone like sees the chemistry, and it's a really like great slow burn, like office romance, and I just loved it. I devoured this book. I read it in like 2 days. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. I do think it would be a little less palatable if I read it in like a short amount of time. I read it really fast. So that kind of helped with the whole slow burn thing, but still I thought it was such a good romance. I loved the chemistry between the characters. I loved each character, and I just had a really fun time. It was a good one. Next, I read I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey. This is Halsey's poetry book. It is beautiful, the cover. The inside, however, is where I have an issue. Okay. So Halsey's poetry collection, I was really excited for this because I really enjoy Halsey's music, and it's obvious that she has talent as a songwriter. So, you know, I kind of thought right off the bat, like, her poems would be good. Like, poetry and songwriting are very similar. I did like a lot of the poems in this book, but not as many as I wanted to with how large of a collection this is, because there is 132 poems in this collection, and I liked probably less than 20 of them. So, you know, I ended up giving this 2 stars. I feel really bad about it, but I just feel like it's the truth. I originally gave this 3 stars, and then I was like reading other people's reviews, and I was like, no, I just feel like the ratio of poems that I liked to the poems that I didn't like just made this a 2 star. I really liked a lot about Halsey's writing. Like, certain things really stood out to me, and certain poems like really stood out to me, but then there was just some poems that just like seemed so unnecessary and so unnecessary to the collection in general. And sometimes some of the poems just didn't make sense. Like, it's that simple, they just didn't make sense. But I don't know, there was stuff I really did like about this. I really loved the imagery. I loved like a lot of her use of language and her vulnerability that she showed in this, and especially like, gosh, she was so vulnerable in this. Like, she tells you a lot about her life that you may not know about, and for that I definitely applaud her. Like, this was a brave thing to publish. But you know, just if you're thinking about picking this up, just know that there's a lot of poems in the collection and they might not all be it for you. So, you know, that's how it be sometimes, right? I don't really want to talk about this next one. I'm actually not ready. The next book I read was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is actually the last book I read. I just finished this today, so my heart is kind of raw, okay? The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is about this movie star, Evelyn Hugo, who is telling her life story as an older woman, and you get to follow her whole life story. And she did marry 7 husbands, but that's really not what the book's about at all. It's really about her love story with a woman. The love story in this book is so beautiful, so heartbreaking, so good. I mean, there's no words. There's no words. Every second of this book was phenomenal. Like, every single second of it. This was just such a good way to end April. I gave it 5 stars. It was the easiest 5 stars I've ever given. I made a whole video vlogging my experience reading this book, and God, was it an experience. I really highly anticipated this book, and it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I thought it would be, and so much more. So it was just such a good way to end April. And I don't know how I'm gonna move on after this. Like, if you know, you know. Like, I don't know how to move on. Anyway, that's all I read this April. It was a really good reading month. Like, fantastic. I was on such a roll with, you know, 4 to 5 star books. A lot of them were sapphic, which is incredible. And I just had a wonderful time. I'm really excited to see what May brings me. I have so many good books to read, so I'm so excited. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me and listening to me talk about books. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.
Limb from limb, head to toe. Limb from limb, head to toe. How many times have I